Happy Friday. If you saw this as a scheduled live, then yes, it said 5:30 Eastern Time. That was just a placeholder to make sure that I went live. But I'm off today, so I'm off my full-time job. Why not do my content creator job? Claiming it. I don't get paid for this. This is totally free. And in continued progress over perfection fashion, I seem to have misplaced my glasses that I've been wearing right now. I can't find them. I was using that as every excuse not to go ahead and start the live. And I'm like, nope, just let's get her done. I'm hot because I haven't turned on the air conditioning yet. So now that it's consistently been warm, I am accepting I'm going to have to do that. So I've got a lot of literal housekeeping to do with the rest of my day off. So I thought, why not go ahead and get my live out of the way in my 51 days of consecutive live streaming. And if you've seen my previous either lives or the video about having gone, oh yeah, I'm doing 90 days of consecutive. Oh, I also didn't do my intro. So let me just do that and say, hey there, YouTube. Slasher Chicks and Slasher Dudes. My name's Alicia, and this is Slasher Chick TV, where we like to talk about growth mindset and negotiation strategy. So you never have to choose between this or that. You can always say yes to this / that. We're in the midst of a 90-day live stream challenge, and on Fridays we have it themed as Freedom Fridays, where we talk about how growth mindset negotiation strategies can be used for your own financial freedom, location freedom, time freedom, whatever aspect of freedom that you're looking for. But I'm looking for some overall freedom, and that brought me to today's topic, in that Kelly Rowland is, I would say, fair to say, kind of going viral because of some of her interactions lately. If you Google Kelly Rowland right now, you'll see a lot of the same thing as people over and over talking about her at the Cannes Film Festival, and this particular interaction with someone, quote unquote, she looks gorgeous though, by the way, quote unquote, rushing her up the thing. All right, here, I can watch it here on the video. Let's see if this is with her. Y'all are not going to get me copyrighted on this, so we're going to stop sharing that one. Let's find something else as an example. I mean, you would have to be under a rock to have not kind of seen this lately. I really wish I could find the ones with the lip syncing versions. But let's see. Here we go. We're just going to go deeper into the Google News and see what example that gives us. Okay, but if I click this button here and go deeper into the Google News, and it says, she confronts him, you'll see all over the news, it's her clash with this person, and this one particular moment captured in perpetuity of her wagging her finger at this person. That'll be an interesting meme at some point on Kelly wagging her finger at you for whatever reason. But I wanted to use that as an example because prior to that, she was going viral about leaving, I believe it was the Today Show. And the narrative then was that her dressing room was not up to par. And so that led to her leaving. I'm going to see if I can fix my lighting here. I mean, I have this beautiful natural light, right? But I don't have the window open in a way that I can take advantage of it. So it's just creating these like bars across my face. That's not good YouTubing, is it? I don't know if this is going to be any better. Oh, that is better. Okay, no bars across the face. Let's use this lovely natural light. So, at any rate, um, yeah, they said, Kelly left because her dressing room wasn't up to par. And the narrative right now is like, she's some diva. And as a let me just say, I have an assessment of what I think is happening here as an armchair quarterback and watching from afar. And I don't think that it is Kelly is a diva. I think what is actually happening is Kelly is probably a former people pleaser coming into her villain era. And hear me out on this. What I think is that people have been used to experiencing Kelly, and perhaps when she didn't have the same kind of boundaries or standards as to how she was going to be treated that she has now. And now that she has developed those, what looks like a wide pendulum swing to other people has made her seem to be difficult or a diva, when in fact, no, she's actually just has new standards that you weren't used to. You met her at a time where she was more of a people pleaser, and she ain't doing that anymore. That's what I think is going on. That's what I think we are experiencing right now. Now, as someone who had a my own point in which enough of that finally broke me to where it's like, I'm not only am I not doing this with you, I ain't doing this with no one, and everybody about to get this smoke. Um, I call that embracing your villain era, because to other people who aren't used to you having boundaries or saying no or not just doing whatever they want and people pleasing, it feels like you're suddenly a villain to them. But for you, it's a new beginning. And so this is the image that always comes to mind for me when I say about embracing your villain era. When you are a former people pleaser, moving on to now actually living your best life, where you show up on your list and your wants and needs are actually put first at some point in the relationship. And so this example came from somebody Etsy shop. I don't know who made the original image. Maybe AI did. I don't know. I don't own the actual image. But it's the first thing that comes to mind for me is this Darth Vader in the in a field of flowers, just sipping his tea, because everybody else might think of Darth as a villain, but Darth is over there living his best life. And as can you, if you are not worried about what other people want and think all the time or to your own detriment. And that's what I think Kelly's finally doing. I think that unfortunately for Kelly Rowland, her profession makes her a public figure, and so everybody gets to see it. But for those of us who are private individuals, uh, people experience that in your life too, when you decide to have new boundaries and new standards, or to evolve and change and grow in a way that you weren't before. You know what I mean? They have to deal with this new you, and I think that's where Kelly is that, I have a new set of boundaries, a new set of expectations and things that I will accept, and y'all just gonna deal, or you not. But I'm not going to cater to everyone else's whim or needs. And for the Today Show, if y'all wanted me to be here, you would have made sure that what I asked for in my rider was covered and that the accommodations were up to my standards. And since you did not choose to do that, then I understand you don't actually want me to be here. That's the negotiation. It is legitimately a negotiation. And here's the thing that I think people don't realize about the quote unquote villain, is that the villain is still a hero in their own story, right? Like no one uh thinks of themselves as a legitimate villain. They are doing the best that they can. And even if they seem to be unreasonable, I think one of my favorite quotes from any of my negotiation training, and that sticks in my head, is when you're negotiating with someone who appears to be unreasonable, irrational, and even unethical and immoral, is that People who behave in that way are doing so because they think it's the only way to get what they want. And so then part of your aspect of the negotiation, if you are negotiating with difficult parties, right, is figuring out how how can I let them know that being difficult isn't the only way to get what they want with me? Perhaps it may have been in the past, perhaps it may be in other negotiations or relationships, but with me, it's not going to be the way that gets us to a solution, because instead of it being you and I against each other, it's you and I against the problem, right? It's how do we work together to identify a solution, whatever that problem might be. The problem might be you think this should happen and I think that should happen, but let's work together to figure out what's a solution. And that solution could be working in the middle. That solution could be one person chooses to completely acquiesce, but you can't get to a place where you both can agree or align on the solution unless you're willing to have that difficult conversation. And that's where Kelly was. She's willing to have the difficult conversations in all of those relationships. And if that looks like a villain era to other people, then oh wow, it seems like where she's at. So um, that's one of the things I wanted to just react to, because it's been heavily on my mind lately. The more I see these comments and commentary about Kelly Rowland and her current behavior, we'll say, or how she's how she's being talked about in the media right now. Now, the other thing that made this topic apropos and made it very Freedom Friday for me, and if I seem to be looking away and I'm not looking at the camera anymore, it's because I'm also looking at my second screen trying to find because I started to talk about this before. And maybe this will be something that I can use later if I go ahead and do it now. Okay. So I don't have this set up right. So that's first things first. Let me get that set up right. And that will help us be able to have this conversation. But yeah, I'll use that as the segue. I had to have a conversation today that I was really avoiding, that I just didn't want to have. But it was a difficult conversation about working together in a partnership that just wasn't working, and it was obvious to me that it wasn't working for either of us. But what was also obvious is that neither of us were approaching it, and it just needed to be addressed, because it was otherwise just going to get worse, and it would impact our long-term relationship when it doesn't have to. So um I we ended up having the conversation and approaching it, and it turned out to be like way what's the word I'm looking for, but it was just much easier than I anticipated. It was We were both very much on the same page, not surprisingly, but luckily. And it felt like such a weight lifted after having the difficult conversation that I was avoiding. So I don't know who needs to hear this, but if there is a conversation that you have been avoiding, um, then it's more than likely means that you have to have it. And I think one of my favorite quotes that I got from a former direct report is that he wasn't bringing up something because he didn't want to rock the boat, but that he realized if he didn't bring it up, he was poking holes in the boat of our relationship, and he didn't want to do that either. And it was such a vulnerable segue for us to be able to share constructive feedback about our working relationship in a way that allowed me as a manager to make a more effective environment for him, and helped me as a manager also improve in my management abilities by being able to get that direct feedback that oftentimes people don't give you. They will just leave. So that's why feedback is a gift. But all of that leads me to say, back to my presentation and using Kelly as an example, this thing does not want me to be able to present this right. Oh, okay, got it. Now here's how I do it. Okay. So yeah, but what I'm saying is regardless of the origin story and what caused them to get there and whether you agree that it's valid or not, right? Um, the truth is that the fact still remains in all of those instances that the villain still believes that they are the hero. They are still the hero in their own story. And so you have to keep that in mind when you are being perceived as the villain or when you're perceiving someone else as the villain. What are you not considering? And are they only behaving this way because they think it's the only way to get what they want? Now, the villain is also respected. So you might think, well, why would somebody even embrace that? Why would you even want to be seen as a villain? Well, because the villain gets what they want. The villain is respected. Let's use Diddy, for example. And I'm not saying be extreme and be unethical, but I'm saying if you've been a doormat, then maybe you do need to swing in the other direction to some extent and think about for yourself if you're used to just saying yes to whatever, saying I don't want to do that might actually seem villainous to you. But the villain is respected. No, a lot of people will also respect that you stood up for yourself or advocated for yourself, and they need to hear or see that. And I think it leads me to another phrase that I think when I heard this, the person wasn't necessarily meaning for it to be a bit of motivation or inspiration, but it was where they said, respect yourself so that I can respect you. And so the villain is respected and advocating and standing up for yourself uh, helps others respect you too. Um, Now, the villain also has a special skill set always that sets them apart from everybody else. Like, let me think of some of my favorite villains and stories. Okay, this is here we go. All right, let's use the stepmother in Cinderella, right? She didn't necessarily have a special skill set. What she did have was a special tool that allowed her to know things that everybody else couldn't necessarily know. And if you are struggling with like getting over your people pleasing era and embracing your villain era, then realize you have a special skill too that sets you apart from others. And because we all do, and maybe in your people pleasing era, you didn't realize that. But in your villain era, where you are no longer doing that and fully embracing your active Kelly Rowland, then think about what your special skill set is that sets you apart. So that's something to keep in mind. Hi, Hippy Dippy. And last, I think this is the last point we're about to say. Oh, that was the last point. So this is what I'll just say about, as I said, I think what we are seeing with Kelly Rowland right now is she is moving on from perhaps a people pleasing era to embracing her villain era. And it only feels villainous to other people because they're not used to her having boundaries or enforcing them the way that she has been. But remember, the villain believes they are the hero, regardless of their origin story. The villain is respected for advocating and standing up for themselves, and they have a special skill set that sets them apart. That's why everybody's hating on them. So if you are someone who, maybe has looked at the things that have come up about Kelly as, oh, she's just difficult to work with, or she's being a diva, I would offer you another perspective. Perhaps she's not being difficult to work with or being a diva. Perhaps she's just standing up for herself for the first time in her career and differently than she's done before. I don't know. Oh, thanks, young MIA. I did not know that. And thank you, Trish, for sharing my live stream. But that's, yeah, what was on my mind on this particular Freedom Friday was that, you know, what I think is going on with Kelly Rowland that everyone's talking about is really just her advocating for herself. That might look like a villain to other people, but if you are a former people pleaser, you should embrace your villain era and decide what that looks like for you. And doing those things and having the difficult conversations that maybe you have been avoiding is a freeing thing. It is in line with the Freedom Friday. And I think I'll just close with one of my other things that keeps me also thinking about my own definition of freedom and how, none of us have to be bound by any of our past circumstances either. So if you are a former people pleaser and that's what people were used to, and now you're embracing your villain era and changing that narrative, people will get used to that too. And if they don't, maybe they're no longer your people. That might be fine, reason or a season. I'm not saying throw everybody away. Nobody's saying that. I'm saying, relationships are meant to grow and evolve, all of them. Some of them actually revolve too. Sometimes you literally do spin the block. But one person that I have always kept as an example of true freedom and not being ever feeling like you have to be a victim of your circumstances. And by always, I mean, okay, since like 2008. But if you can see this, I used to keep this news article at my desk in my cubicle, and it says like what's in a name. And this young lady's name is Marijuana Pepsi Sawyer. Well, it used to be Sawyer. It looks like she got married. Because when I went to go Google her now, it looks like her last name is Vandyck. So congratulations, Dr. Marijuana Pepsi Sawyer, because let me put a handle on her name. She has her whole doctorate, and I believe her doctorate is in law, if I'm correct, because when I became aware of the Marijuana Pepsi Sawyer, she was an attorney. But let me see, what does she do right now? Okay, so her PhD. Oh, she did her PhD in uncommon Black names. Look at that. That's what I'm saying. You can take any circumstance and turn it into whatever it is that you want. You did not have to be bound by even the circumstances of a name like Marijuana Pepsi. This is her legal name, y'all. And she said her mother told her your name will take you around the world. Now, this is what is in the article. Marijuana and Pepsi are her legal first and middle names, and she embraces them as a symbol of her struggle to succeed and to help other children overcome obstacles. She describes herself as tenacious. Okay, wow. Okay, so I love this so much right now. Okay, I told you I kept this on my thing since like 2008, and it says then at the time, soon she'll start work on her doctorate. And then to see now that Miss Marijuana Pepsi is a whole doctor. So let me get that correct. Dr. Marijuana Pepsi. So it goes on to talk about like her education, her career. Oh, she started a scholarship at her school in her name. I love that. And here you can see the articles. Is this, oh my gosh, what a full circle moment right here. This, okay, so it wasn't 2008. Point of correction. It was 2009 in which I kept this article on my desk, because this right here is the article. No, it's not. It's not the article, but it was written in the same publication, the Milwaukee. This is from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and this is also the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. And do they have the photo here? They don't even have the photo in this one. But let me just go back so you can see. This picture right here is the picture from the article. So is this the article? Let me see. Oh no, this is. I know y'all didn't. The Washington Post wants me to pay for this article. So, no, I am not a member of the Washington Post. Oh, but here's her LinkedIn page. Let's see what this says. Oh, it's her newsletter on LinkedIn. Oh, it's an interview. Okay. I didn't even know this was a thing. And let me open the immersive reader. Also, did not know that was a thing. What? Okay, accessibility. What? Whole fam. What is about to happen here? Oh my gosh.
Research shows that having a distinctively Black name doesn't affect your economic future. But what is the day-to-day reality of living with such a name? Marijuana Pepsi Van Dyck, a newly minted PhD, is well qualified to answer this question. Her verdict: the data don't tell the whole story. This article comes from Freakonomics Radio.
Wow.
You can listen and subscribe to our weekly podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or elsewhere. You never know what's going to inspire an interesting piece of academic research.
Yes.
Imagine, for instance, that you are a third-grade teacher at the very beginning of a new school year.
And you get a child named Marijuana Pepsi in your classroom. What do you do? Okay, but I was today years old when I discovered that accessibility feature on LinkedIn. Um, and I am impressed. And I have been a long time LinkedIn user. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier when I was saying, I think, I kind of know people, and I kind of know people from well, at this point, yeah, over 20 years of HR and people experience. Now, I mean, professionally, let's not include all my experience just on earth. And so seeing this as an evolution of LinkedIn, since I've been on LinkedIn since like 2004, I was an early adopter of LinkedIn because when it first started, it was very much a place where recruiters were looking for talent. Before it became more of this like not only just a place to network and identify talent, but also a place to educate and market. So seeing that evolution of LinkedIn is really nice to see. That's pretty cool. But yeah, that pretty much covers my Freedom Friday. So, but I did feel compelled to share that part, or I don't know whoever needed to hear this about if there was a difficult conversation that you were avoiding, it probably would serve you well to just go ahead and have it. And there's no way you can't learn and grow from it. So, here we like to talk about a growth mindset and negotiation strategies that allow you to design a life that you love. And I get it, that might not be a life that other people think is the best, or that other people agree with, or that other people want. They don't have to. So even if it scares them, it only has to make sense to you. And as long as you're not hurting anybody else, you're pretty much good to go. You can figure it all out, and it's all possible. And hopefully, we continue to share with one another here in this slasher chick community in a way that you get new resources that help you get there faster. Like the proverb says, if you want to go, well, yeah, it says if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. But we're spinning that on its head. You could go fast alone. That's true. But you could go further faster together. Do you see what I'm saying? We can still be a catalyst for one another. And hopefully, well, not if you're interested in being a catalyst for one another, and this is the first time that you've come here, please subscribe to the channel. join this community of others who are interested in being a catalyst for one another. And I shared in a previous live that my theme for this summer is going to be catalytic converter and focusing on my own evolution. And I'd love to hear about others who are focusing on theirs too. And perhaps we'll share along the way. But for now, part of my evolution has been consistently showing up for myself on this YouTube channel and finishing this channel. And I can officially say that I've checked off day 51 of 90 consecutive days of live streaming for at least 30 minutes each time. I checked earlier, and that is 56.66 extra, percent done towards my goal. And I'm going to keep it going. That over 50% definitely feels like a milestone worth celebrating. And I hope you come back tomorrow for day 52, where we celebrate together on Self Care Saturday. So have a great Friday. And I might be back on some point later today because I have a couple things I want to test in the stream. But for now, I am just happy with accepting some progress over perfection and acknowledging that day 51 is done. Have a great Friday, and I'll see you later.